Now, before we talk about how to convert from one unit to another, let's make a list of the common conversion factors. So let's start with units of length. You need to know that 1 kilometer is equivalent to 1,000 meters. 1 meter is equal to 100 centimeters. And these are some common conversions that you want to keep in mind. 1 mile is equal to 5,280 feet. So hopefully you're taking notes. You want to write these things down. 1 yard is equal to 3 feet, and 1 mile is equal to 1.609 kilometers. And so those are some common units of conversion for length. Now let's write some other conversion factors, those that are associated with time. You know that 1 minute is equal to 60 seconds. 60 minutes is equivalent to 1 hour, and is 24 hours in a single day, and 365 days in a year. Now let's talk about volume. Let's make a list of the conversion factors of volume. 1 liter is equal to 1,000 milliliters. 1 cubic meter is equal to 1,000 liters. And 1 cubic centimeter is equivalent to 1 milliliter. So those are the most common conversion factors that you'll see when dealing with volume. Now let's work on an example problem. How can we convert 820 centimeters into meters? How can we do so? This problem is a one-step conversion problem. So first, you need to identify the conversion factor that you'll need. Here's the conversion factor. We know that 1 meter is equal to 100 centimeters. So how can we use this conversion factor to help us to convert from centimeters to meters? First, always rewrite what you're given. So we starting with 820 centimeters. In the next fraction, we need to write the conversion factor. Now, because we have centimeters on top, we need to put the unit centimeters on the bottom, and therefore meters will have no choice but to go on top. The number that's associated with centimeters and the conversion factor is 100, and the number that's associated with meters is 1. Notice how the unit centimeters cancels, leaving behind meters. So now we can get the answer. So it's going to be 820 divided by 100, which is equal to 8.2 meters. So therefore, 820 centimeters has the same length as 8.2 meters. Now, let's work on another example. Go ahead and convert 255 milliliters into liters. Feel free to pause the video. So what conversion factor do we need to go from milliliters to liters? Now we know that 1 liter is equal to 1,000 milliliters. So we use this conversion factor to convert from milliliters to liters. So let's start with what we're given, and that is 255 milliliters over 1. Now let's convert it. So since we have the unit milliliters on top, we need to put the unit milliliters on the bottom so that they will cancel. Now the number that's associated with the milliliters is 1,000. So we have to put 1,000 on the bottom. And the number that's associated with liters is 1. So we're going to put 1 liter on top. So it's 255 divided by 1,000, which is 0.255 liters. So that's the answer. 255 milliliters is equal to 0.255 liters. Now let's try a two-step conversion problem. Let's convert 0.028 kilometers into centimeters. So take a minute and try this example. So we don't have a direct conversion from kilometers to centimeters, at least we weren't given one in this video. But we do have a conversion factor that can convert kilometers to meters and then meters to centimeters. Now we know that 1 kilometer is equal to 1,000 meters, and 1 meter is equal to 100 centimeters. So here's the outline of events that we need to do. We need to convert kilometers to meters first, and then once we do that, we can then convert meters to centimeters. So let's start with the initial value that we're given, and that is 0.028 kilometers over 1. Now let's use this conversion factor to convert from kilometers to meters. So since we have kilometers on top, we need to put it on the bottom of the second fraction. And the number that's associated with kilometers is 1. So 1 kilometer is equal to 1,000 meters. Now we could cancel the unit kilometers, so now we just have meters. Now let's use the second conversion factor to convert from meters to centimeters. So we have meters on top, which means we need to put it on the bottom, and so centimeters will go on top. Now these units will cancel. The number in front of meters is 1, and the number in front of centimeters is 100. So 100 is associated with centimeters, 1 is associated with meters, based on this conversion factor. So now we need to multiply. Whenever you have numbers on top, you should multiply. If you have a number on the bottom, you need to divide. So now let's do the math. It's 0.028 times 1,000, which is 28 times 100. So it's equal to 2,800 centimeters. So that's equivalent to 0.028 kilometers. Here's another problem that you could try. Convert 750,000 milliliters into cubic meters. So what should we do for this problem? How can we convert milliliters to cubic meters? So this is another two-step process. We need to convert milliliters into liters, and then liters into cubic meters. Keep in mind 1 liter is equal to 1,000 milliliters, and 1 cubic meter is 1,000 liters. So go ahead and use these conversion factors to get the answer. So pause the video, try this example, and then unpause it when you have the solution. So let's start with the number that we're given, the number that we're trying to convert to, or convert from into something else. So since we have milliliters on top, we need to put the unit milliliters on the bottom and liters on top. So 1,000 milliliters is equal to 1 liter. So these units will cancel using this conversion factor. Now let's move on to the next one. So since we have liters on top, we need to put it at the bottom of the second fraction. 1,000 liters is equal to 1 cubic meter. And now the unit liters will cancel. So this time, we're going to have to take this number and divide it by these two numbers. 750,000 divided by 1,000 is 750. And then we got to take 750 divided by another 1,000. And so that's 0.75 cubic meters. So that's the answer. Now let's talk about how to convert units of speed or velocity. So let's say if we have 30 meters per second, which is a unit of speed, and we want to convert it to kilometers per hour. So this is another multi-step problem. How can we do so? Well, we need to convert meters to kilometers. We know that 1 kilometer is equal to 1,000 meters. And then we need to convert seconds into hours. So we know that there's 60 seconds in a minute and 60 minutes in an hour. So this is a 3-step process. It's always helpful to write out the conversion factors that you'll need. And then once you have it, you could just convert from one thing to another. So let's start with 30 meters per second. Now how should we write it as a fraction? Notice that the unit meters goes on top. You don't want to write it like this. Rather, you want to write it like meters over 1 second. 30 meters per second means that you're moving at a speed where it takes you only 1 second to travel 30 meters. So in 2 seconds, you will cover a distance of 60 meters. And that's what speed is. It tells you how fast or how far you can move per second. Now let's convert meters to kilometers. So we need to put the unit meters on the bottom, kilometers on top, so that these will cancel. And we know that there's 1,000 meters per 1 kilometer. Now let's convert seconds into minutes using this conversion factor. So we have the unit seconds on the bottom. We need to put it on top. So 60 seconds is equal to 1 minute. Now the unit seconds will cancel. And now let's convert minutes into hours using this conversion factor. There's 60 minutes in 1 hour. So the unit minutes cancel. Now notice the units that we have left over. Kilometers per hour, which is what we want. Now let's do the math. So it's going to be 30 divided by 1,000, and that's 0.03 times 60 and times another 60. So you should get 108 kilometers per hour. That's the answer. Now let's try another example. Let's convert 45 miles per hour into meters per second. Go ahead and try it. So we have 45 miles on top per 1 hour on the bottom. Now how can we convert from miles to meters? How can we do so? Well, let's make a list of all the conversion factors that we have. We know that 1 mile is equal to 1.609 kilometers. And we also know 1 kilometer is equal to 1,000 meters. So using those two conversion factors, we can go from miles to meters. And we know how to go from hours to seconds. 1 hour is 60 minutes, and 1 minute is 60 seconds. So these are the 4 conversion factors that we need for this particular problem. So let's convert miles to meters. So 1 mile is 1.609 kilometers using this conversion factor. So let's cancel the unit miles, and now let's use this one. So 1 kilometer is equal to 1,000 meters. Now we could cancel the unit kilometers, and let's convert hours into minutes using this. So we have hours on the bottom, which means we got to put hours on top. So 1 hour is equal to 60 minutes. And now the unit hours cancel. And now we can use this. In 1 minute, there are 60 seconds. So now we're left over with meters on top and seconds on the bottom, which is what we want. So now let's do the math. Going from left to right, it's going to be 45 times 1.609, and that's 72.405, and then multiply that by 1,000, and then divide by 60, and then divide that result by 60 again. So the final answer that I have is 20.1 meters per second. So now you know how to convert miles per hour to meters per second. Now sometimes, in a typical chemistry or physics course, you may need to convert from one unit of density to another. So in chemistry, a common unit of density is grams per milliliter. But in physics, the common unit of density is kilograms per cubic meter. And that looks like a messed up case, so let's just fix that. So here we go. Go ahead and convert 5.6 grams per milliliter to kilograms per cubic meter. If you want the shortcut method, simply multiply by 1,000. It's going to be 5,600, but let's prove it. For those of you who want the quick and simple answer, that's what you could do. Now we need to convert from grams to kilograms. Now we know that 1 kilometer is 1,000 meters. It turns out that for mass, 1 kilogram is equal to 1,000 grams. Now we know that 1 liter is equal to 1,000 milliliters. And we also know that 1 cubic meter is equal to 1,000 liters. So this is enough to convert from grams per milliliter to kilograms per cubic meter. So let's go ahead and begin. So we need to write this as 5.6 grams per 1 milliliter. Now let's convert grams to kilograms first. So let's use this conversion factor. So we need to put the unit grams on the bottom. 1,000 grams is equal to 1 kilogram. So the unit grams cancels. Now let's use this conversion factor to convert from milliliters to liters. We have milliliters on the bottom, so we need to put milliliters on top. And there's 1,000 milliliters per 1 liter, so we're going to put 1,000 in front of milliliters. And now these units cancel. So now we could use our last conversion factor. There's 1,000 liters per cubic meter. So notice the final units that we have: kilograms and cubic meters, which is what we want. Now as you can see, 1,000 divided by 1,000 is 1, so those two cancel. The leftover numbers are 5.6 times 1,000, which is going to be 5,600 kilograms per cubic meter. Now let's say if you have 54 square feet, which is a unit of area. How can you convert it to another unit of area? In this case, square yards. Now we know that 1 yard is 3 feet. So start with what you have, 54 square feet. Now we still need to put feet on the bottom so that the unit feet will cancel because we have feet on top. So 1 yard is 3 feet. But now here's the difference between this example and the other example. So since we have square feet doesn't completely cancel with feet. What this really means is that you have 54 feet times feet, that's square feet. So if you multiply by 1 yard over 3 feet, that will cancel with just one of the units of feet. But you still have another one. So what you need to do is multiply it by 1 yard over 3 feet again to cancel with the other one. So basically, to simplify it, you can just square that number. So what you're doing is you're taking 54 and you're dividing it by 3 squared, which is 54 divided by 9. And that's equal to 6 square yards. Or if you do it this way, 54 divided by 3 is 18. And then 18 divided by another 3 is 6. And yards times yards is yards squared, the same way as x times x is x squared. But personally, I like to do it this way. But I wanted to show you in the expanded form so you can understand it. Let's try another example. Convert 8,500 square centimeters into square meters. So let's start with what we have, 8,500 square centimeters. Now we know that there's 100 centimeters in every meter. But in this example, we need to square the conversion factor. So to get the answer, you could take 8,500 and divide it by 100 squared, or you could do 8,500 divided by 100 and then divide it by 100 again. Your final answer should come out to 0.85 square meters. So that's how you can convert the units of area. Now let's try volume. Let's say if we want to convert 0.25 cubic yards into cubic feet, which represents volume. How can we do so? So once again, let's start with what we're given. And we know that 1 yard is equal to 3 feet. So we need to raise the conversion factor to the third power. So yards cubed will cancel. 3 to the third power is 27. 27 times 0.25 is 6.75. So the answer is 6.75 cubic feet. And so that is it for this video. Thanks for watching.
It's book activity time.